The life and career of a United States Congressman is no easy task, particularly in times of a divided nation in many regards. Congressman Bob Latta is here to tell us why a career in U.S. Congress truly matters. Congressman Latta, thanks so much for joining us.
So Congressman Latta, as a whole, kind of big picture wise, are the majority of businesses in the state of Ohio able to thrive post-pandemic?
That's a great question because, again, what I'm hearing from small, medium, and large businesses out there, it's all about finding employees. And for the smaller employers out there, just trying to keep the doors open when they don't have, to be behind the counters or serving customers, it's tough. And so this is something that's not only across our district or the state, but across the entire country. And we saw the labor participation rate in the country, go from about 64% to about 62% post-pandemic. So we need to get people back into the labor force. But, that's probably the number one issue I'm hearing from folks out there. But again, I'm on the road constantly. And what we're also seeing is, of course, is that with rising interest rates out there, that's affecting businesses. Higher, inflation has really socked it to everyone out there. That it's really been tough. And of course, energy prices have put things also a big squeeze on, because again, when 82.5% of everything in Ohio was trucked, that's a major cost. And then of course, if you think about locomotives, they're diesel. And diesel is over $5 a gallon.
Are there any things going well right now in terms of our business success rates and entrepreneurial companies out there?
Well, I think, you always want to be on the positive side. And that's one of the things I think, again, you've got so many entrepreneurs out there that want to get started. And so, they're willing to take that risk, to put their precious resources out there that they might never recover if something doesn't work for them. But, we want to make sure that they have that opportunity to succeed. And so when you look at what the smaller companies are doing, and even the large, everyone's out there, scrambling. But the great thing that you hear from everybody is this: in a lot of cases, they have more orders than they can actually fill. And so that's one of the big things out there is, again, when it's from supply chain issues and all, but, I think that, companies have really looked at how they can fix these supply chain issues and move forward. And, we're seeing it right here in Northwest Ohio with companies that are looking in their own backyards to keep that supply chain as short as possible.
Now, Ohio, your state, is home to, as you said earlier, more than 60,000 manufacturing jobs. You've got the glass, steel, auto industry. You even have candy and cookie companies in Ohio. So do you have companies now that are interested in moving into the state of Ohio and continuing to grow, or is the opposite still occurring? Kind of what is that state of economic development in Ohio to date?
When you look at the overall, I think Ohio, it's very, very positive because, again, we have a lot of resources here that a lot of states don't have. First of all, sometimes, we talk about our weather here in Ohio that, let's face it, it's not the greatest, but we have water. You go to a lot of places in this country now and they have no water. So we have a lot of resources out there on the natural side. We look at our roads out there that we have a great interstate system that we can move things. We look at the Great Lake, our Lake Erie that we right here that for shipping. And you look at our rail transportation. So we have all these things going for us. But again, one of the things we always want to make sure that we're doing is making sure that we keep these costs down for companies, because again, that's what they look at. So when you think about from natural gas, if you're heating a building or using it to run furnaces or something else like that, you want to make sure that we have very competitive rates. And I think Ohio has that. And I think that's why a lot of companies are looking at Ohio right now and saying that, we really want to come into Ohio. But, but then they look at that first issue we talked about. Do we have the labor force out there for them? But I think we have that too.
Well, certainly inflation is an issue. You touched upon that earlier in our conversation, affecting businesses negatively. So how is it affecting them, and what can we be doing to kind of impact the struggles that businesses are facing as it ties to inflation?
Well, first and foremost, when you think about the cost of doing business, we have some companies and different types of businesses out there, their profit margin might only be 1% to 2%. And that's pretty tight. So when you think about what they have to go through, so then it goes down into the whole question then of, okay, so what are they paying, for the service for? The cost of having employees is going to add all these things up. And so you look at the overall picture, inflation is one of those things that is a real killer out there because, again, it's too much money chasing too few goods out there is, the definition pretty much is of inflation. But for companies and small businesses and everything else out there, they're feeling because, again, as costs go up and also energy costs, and they're talking about utility rates, in Ohio going up because of, again, what's happened in Washington. And we could be doing so much more in this country to take care of ourselves and make sure that we have that energy, because it wasn't too long ago that, I was talking to leaders from different countries and businesses from overseas. They were looking at the United States saying that, look, your labor costs are higher, but you have the natural resources, you have energy. We can build plants here in the United States, hire Americans, and cut down that whole supply chain issue to a very, right here in to North America, and keep it here.
Final question for you. What will it take for our nation to return to economic growth, for job recovery, and beyond?
Well, first of all, we've got to have a balanced budget out there. We can't have the federal government spending the way we are, because we're over $30 trillion in debt. And within 8 years now, and I'm wrong. I was wrong in my prediction. I thought it'd be in 10 years, but in 8 years, we'll be paying $1 trillion a year just to pay interest on the debt. It'll be the third highest payment we make every year. And so we've got to really make sure that we get our budget in line and we stay with it.
And as an Ohio girl myself, I want to say thank you to U.S. Representative Bob Latta for being here on Business Life 360. And we thank you for all you do day in and day out to make a difference to those in the state of Ohio and in this great country.
Very much.